Okay, picture this: a tyrannical emperor, a city engulfed in flames, and a legend of pure madness that has been told for almost 2,000 years. It's one of history's most epic stories. But how much of it is actually true? Let's dive into this fiery mystery.
We've all got that image in our heads, right? The emperor watching his own capital burn to the ground. But the big question is, did Nero really do it? Or is this one of the most successful smear campaigns in all of history?
To get to the truth, we first have to really understand the legend. And believe me, it is a powerful one, born from one of the ancient world's most horrifying disasters. So let's set the scene. It's July 64 AD. A fire breaks out in some shops in Rome. Now you have to remember, this is a city of 1 million people, all crammed into wooden apartment buildings. It's basically a tinderbox just waiting for a spark. For 6 straight days, the fire just rages. Then, after a short break, it flares up again for another 3. By the time it's over, 2/3 of the city is just gone. The scale is almost impossible to wrap your head around. And this is where the story truly catches fire. Historians writing later, like Cassius Dio, they paint this absolutely chilling picture. Nero wasn't just some helpless bystander. He was orchestrating the whole catastrophe, supposedly just loving the beauty of the flames. All right, let's play prosecutor for a minute. For centuries, this was the accepted story. Nero was the bad guy, plain and simple. So let's lay out the traditional case against him. The case against Nero really boils down to 3 main points. First, motive. He supposedly wanted to clear out all the ugly slums to make way for his gigantic, over-the-top new palace, the Golden House. Second, the action itself. The famous story that he just stood there and sang about the fall of Troy while Rome burned. And third, the cover-up. To get everyone to stop blaming him, he pointed the finger at a new, unpopular religious group, the Christians, and had them savagely punished. But hold on, where are these stories even coming from? Well, the juiciest, most damning accounts come from guys like Suetonius and Cassius Dio. But here's the crucial detail. They weren't there. They were writing 50, 100, sometimes even 150 years after the fire. That's a huge time gap. And yeah, that time gap, that's a massive red flag for any historian. So let's do what they do. Let's start fact-checking and see if this legendary story actually holds up to scrutiny. So our best, most reliable ancient source is the historian Tacitus. He was writing closer to the event, and he had a reputation for being way more balanced. And his account, it's totally different. While Suetonius goes all in accusing Nero, Tacitus basically says, look, we're not sure if it was an accident or if the emperor ordered it. That single word, uncertain, is the first huge crack in this entire legend. And you know what? Modern archaeology casts even more doubt on the story. I mean, scientists have found these thick layers of ash and melted metal, which absolutely confirms how incredibly hot and intense the fire was. But here's what they haven't found. Not one single piece of evidence for arson. No tools, no accelerants, nothing. And here's the real kicker. The fire also destroyed part of Nero's own palace. Kind of ruins the whole he did it to build a new palace theory, don't you think? Okay, let's just tackle the biggest myth of them all head on. That classic image of Nero playing his fiddle while his city is reduced to ash. See this date? That's roughly when the fiddle was invented. So yeah, it was literally impossible for Nero to have fiddled. The instrument wouldn't exist for another 9 centuries. And that story about him singing about Troy while playing a lyre, well, even Tacitus, our most reliable source, was pretty skeptical and called it what it was, a rumor. In fact, if you read Tacitus, you get a completely different picture of Nero's response. He says Nero was 35 miles away in Antium when the fire broke out. He didn't just watch. He rushed back to Rome to personally lead the relief efforts. He opened up his private gardens to give shelter to the homeless, organized emergency food shipments, and even lowered the price of corn. This sounds a lot more like a leader in crisis mode, not some pyromaniac enjoying the view. So if the evidence just isn't there, why was this villainous story created in the first place? And what do historians today really think happened? Let's get to the final verdict. So why the smear campaign? Well, it's pretty much a classic political playbook. Step 1, a real tragedy happens. Step 2, you blame an unpopular leader. And Nero was definitely unpopular with the Roman elite. And then, step 3, the most important part. You let his enemies, the people who came to power after him, write the official history. The new dynasty needed to make Nero look like a monster to make themselves look like saviors. So what's the bottom line? The modern consensus is that the Great Fire of Rome was almost certainly a horrible accident. Nero did not start it. But
And this is a huge but. He was no saint. He saw a political opportunity in the chaos and cynically, brutally scapegoated the Christians to redirect public anger away from himself. He was an opportunist, not an arsonist.
And here is the final incredible irony of this whole story. After the fire, Nero put in place a whole new urban building code. He made streets wider, put limits on building heights, and required new construction to use fire-resistant materials like brick and stone. His actions, born from this catastrophe, actually transformed Rome into a safer, more modern, and more resilient city. The story of Nero and the fire is such a powerful reminder that history is often just the story that the winners get to tell. It really leaves us with a critical question to think about. If a narrative can be so effectively twisted for 2,000 years, what accepted facts from our own time might one day be seen in a completely different light?